Talkers podcast. We are back after a long hiatus. We can make no guarantees of how consistent we'll be, but we'll try our best because there's a lot going on in the world and we'd love to inform you guys. So let's get started. So first, we'd like to provide some updates on the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Bilal, what do you have on that?
Welcome back, guys. It's been a very long time. So, starting us off, we sort of left off at the Russia-Ukraine conflict. We discussed the possibility of war. We were pretty sure that war would take place and it would be awful. People would die, and people have died in the hundreds. Bunkers, children, hospitals have been destroyed by the Russian Air Force and military in general. They've shown a lack of humanity. It's completely inhuman. You can call it a genocide, but this military operation, as the Russian president would like to call it, has also turned out to be a complete financial failure. The Russians are taking in heavy losses. They're losing tanks by the minute. They're losing other military vehicles. They're losing support equipment. Some of the equipment is faulty. And a lot of it doesn't have to do with the fact that Russia isn't a strong military nation, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that the Russian military, the soldiers lack high morale. They're not necessarily fighting on the highest of morales. I mean, there were videos that were leaked of their MREs, the food that is given for military soldiers going into war. Their food had expired. Their food was expired. The quality of their machines was terrible. It wasn't maintained. And if anything, right, this war or this conflict has sort of exposed Russia's lack of care for their soldiers, and Russia's sort of how they bargain, right? Throughout history, Russia's been this ultimate bargainer of power, and it's kind of exposed them and it's put them in a very awkward position that they haven't been in since the collapse of Soviet Russia. So, what do you have to say?
So, it's overall a military disaster, like you said, for Russia. I mean, they expected Ukraine to roll over. And over the past months, President Zelensky has gotten a lot of criticism because he kept them in the conflict, kept it going despite it looking bleak. But I guess we as the public didn't see the bigger picture because now it looks like Ukraine's going to win, especially on the ground with Russia troop morale being so low. And I think this goes to show just because you're a powerful country, there's no reason to assume you're going to win a war. I mean, look at the previous examples of when a big superpower invades another country. When the United States invaded Afghanistan, they ended up losing that conflict. The Taliban is back in power. Or when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, what happened? The Soviet Union had to pull out, and the amount of money it costed led to the Soviet Union's collapse. So a lot of times you see these big, powerful militaries trying to bully smaller nations. But what ends up happening is that the smaller nation, which knows its own territory, which has higher morale, and it's like defending home court advantage in sports. When you're at home, you want to win in front of your home crowd. So when you invade another country, they really fight hard, while the bigger country fights with less purpose because they just assume they're going to win with their superior military technology.
Ukraine conflict. I think we would like to simply touch upon something that has been troubling, I would say, the world for the past month is the news or the continuous onslaught of shootings taking place across the United States of America. And something needs to be said. And, just as a citizen outside of the country, America has become so used to seeing shootings take place that at this point you're numb to it. So when you hear about it, you don't think it's weird. You just think this is how it is now. But for me, sitting in India, I could tell you like a hand on my heart that there's probably been not more than one or two school shootings in our history. And I doubt there's even been one where someone would have died, where someone would have showed up with an assault rifle into a school or even into a landmark of huge people. It's a rare occurrence, but in America, it seems to become the new normal, where whenever you hear of a school shooting, you go to the comment section and all you read is condolences for the families, my heartfelt condolences, I'm very sorry for their loss. And rarely do you hear about action. You don't hear people talking about action being taken or something having to be done. And I think the Golden State Warriors coach, Steve Kerr, he gave a very fiery speech at the press conference after the Texas shooting in the school. And he said that something needs to be done about this. And when are we going to do something about it? And he said that we need to make background checks a compulsion. And I totally agree with that. I think something from a law standpoint needs to be done about it.
Yeah, so with Steve Kerr in particular, it hits home to him because his own dad was a teacher and he was shot while teaching and he was killed. So for Steve Kerr, it probably triggers some sort of trauma whenever he hears about this news, like every week that a school has been shot up. And near my own home, like 2 high schools away, a kid literally a week after the Texas school shooting came to school with a gun with the intent to shoot a teacher. Thankfully, they caught him and stopped the shooting. But you see, these type of occurrences are really common here, and there are a lot of memes about it where, like, there's a school shooting happening, and then the European students crying while the American students telling him, "It's your first time, really?" So, and often they're jokes, but there's truth behind jokes when they're made. And to go back to your point of solutions, at this point, guns are so ingrained in American culture, it's a guaranteed constitutional right. There's no point of even trying to find the solution of banning guns or any of that sort. That's not going to happen. But I think the main solution should be is, why do these kids enter such deep, dark mental states where they think the only option they have to let their anger out is to shoot up a school? And that ties back to mental health, where mental health is still a big stigma around the world, where people call you weak if you're depressed, or if the kid's alone, they say leave him alone rather than go and help him. And that's, I think, the solution.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Something needs to be, my biggest mental dilemma is, what do we prioritize? Is it guns? Is it mental health? Is it family planning? Because if you see one thing that's common with a lot of these kids, right? And we're specifically talking about school shooters. Well, they don't have joint families. Their families are broken pieces, divorced parents, dead parents, living with their grandmoms, no family, living with foster parents, or living in an orphanage, living on their own. It's the most extreme scenario you could imagine. And if we were to use that form, then how does this work? How do we narrow it down to which family? How can the FBI or the CIA work together and use some form of formula, use a strategy to discover who the next school shooter could be? And the reality is they do that. You hear of shootings after they take place that, oh, the FBI did have tabs on this guy. They did follow this guy on social media. They knew that he was acting suspiciously for the past couple of weeks. And it's conflicting, because a part of me strongly believes that at the end of the day, it is about the gun culture that America has engulfed itself into over the past centuries. But at the same time, there is a relation to mental health, to bullying, to school pressure, or to social media pressure. And but at the same time, I want to stop this narrative that people use, like it is about mental health as much as it is about guns. No issue is more than the other. No other one is less than the other. So when people say it's about mental health, what they're really saying is that it's not about guns. But I want to say that when I say it's about mental health, I'm talking about both issues. I think it's about both. And I think the US government really needs to prioritize. Background checks need to happen. And I think there needs to be something done when it comes to AR-15s and assault rifles and weapons that are used by soldiers fighting a war. It shouldn't be in the hands of a 17-year-old or a 19-year-old or a kid who goes to school. It shouldn't be in that person's hands. And some form of regulation needs to be taken. And we as the people need to force our candidates, our representatives in the Senate, to vote for a motion that can solve this issue that haunts America.
Discussion on guns in America. Let's talk about a little more lighthearted topic in sports.
Green pushing. 6 assists for Green. Curry along 3. That's good! Steph Curry from way downtown! Some Curry chaos here in the third. It's the largest lead of the game.
The NBA finals are going on, which the Golden State Warriors won their 4th championship in 8 years. And Steph Curry really affirmed himself as one of the greats in basketball history. So Gulal, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, in the lead up to the season, regular season, I don't really think there was much hype for this team, yet let alone winning the finals. No one was talking about this team. People were like, the Bucks, who you got, the Chicago Bulls have a really good team this year. Or could the Miami Heat possibly disappoint? And even in the playoffs building up, I mean, people were rooting for the Brooklyn Nets. People were rooting for the Cavs. The GSW fan base wasn't as strong as it was in like 2015, 2016, They weren't rooting that bad. But somehow this team pulled through. And to be honest, I mean, I think that they had a very good season. They were overlooked. They were forgotten about because people were so busy in discussing of who they wanted to win. They totally forgot about the team that really dominated the NBA for this past decade. And I think that was GSW and Curry and Splash Brothers. I mean, he's definitely top 10. I mean, an argument could be made if he wins another ring for top 5, but he's definitely top 10.
And if you're the Celtics, they're a young team, so a lot of people assume they'll be back, but you can't make such an assumption. Like, for example, the Bucks. Everyone assumed they'll be back because Giannis is young. They have young players around him, but they lost this year. They're not back. And if you're the Celtics, you really think of this as a missed opportunity to win your first championship in 14 years. Like, they average almost 15 turnovers a game. That's almost unheard of, and it's impossible for you to win when you just give up the ball like that. And for Jason Tatum, he really struggled this series. And an unsung hero for the Warriors is Andrew Wiggins, who was guarding Jason Tatum every game, was giving his full effort on defense, and he held Jason Tatum to 13 points. A player who normally averages 25 points per game to half that amount in the most important game of the season. And I think that's the difference between the Warriors and other teams. Andrew Wiggins, he was on the Timberwolves and he wasn't this good, but he came to the Warriors and all of a sudden he's one of the best defensive players in the league. Or Gary Payton II, 29 other teams could have signed him, but the Warriors signed him, and now he's guarding Jaylen Brown in the NBA Finals. So, that's the difference between the Warriors and other teams. They find these, players that other teams have given up on and turn them into real contributors.
On the other one, and here he is again in possession.
Messi trying to spin away from Di Lorenzo. Messi into the middle, it's stabbed home. Argentina scored first. Lautaro Martinez.
The Football World Cup that's going to come up this winter in Qatar. Gulal, who do you personally think will win, and who are you cheering?
I'm going with India. No, never mind. India's not qualified, but we are qualifying for the Asian Cup. We're doing well in that qualification stage. But it's weird. Deep down, I feel like FIFA has fixed it for Portugal versus Argentina final, and somehow it's going to work its way there. But on surface, I'm rooting for two basic teams that I've sort of been with for a while. First, I want Brazil to win. I think it's been 20 years. 2002 was the last time they won with Ronaldinho and Ronaldo and that whole gang. I think they should win. I think they deserve it. Second is a bit different. I really don't want a European team to win. I think I'm tired of seeing European teams win. I'd be shocked if it can be another South American team apart from Brazil, but I'd be very happy if it is. And I just want to see this one team do really well, and I want to see Croatia do really well. I think Croatia also deserves it. One team I don't want to win. I don't want Italy to win. They play the most boring football I've ever seen. 1-0, 90 minutes, defensive. I get bored.
You don't have to worry about that. Italy didn't even qualify for the World Cup.
You sure Italy didn't qualify?
Yeah, they're not even qualified.
Whoa. Let me just check that 1 second. I suppose you're right. Italy did not qualify. Oh, great. Thank goodness. How the hell does that happen? Never mind.
I'm cheering against two teams. One of them is England because the fans are so obnoxious. I hope they don't win. the chance of it's coming home. And I also hope that Belgium doesn't win. I think, I don't know how they've been ranked number one in the world for like 6 years and they've won 0 trophies since then. So I really hope they don't win. And I think you're right. It's set up for a Messi versus Ronaldo final, the way the groups are set up. And I feel like there'll be a lot of, FIFA will hope that happens, because if Messi and Ronaldo are in the final, the whole world will stop. And that'll really settle the GOAT debate, I guess. But I hope like an underdog like Wales or Uruguay, they have like some run like Iceland had in the Euros in 2016, and shock everyone and maybe make the finals. And but I think if they're at their peak, I feel like France is the best team in the world. They have so much talent, and if they're playing well together, they would repeat. But obviously the World Cup
Yeah.
winners curse also exists, where the previous World Cup winner doesn't make it out of the group stage.
Yeah, and trust me, I mean, watching what happened in the Euros 2020, they lost to Switzerland in the penalties. It's quite possible they have a horrible World Cup, and the World Cup curse, trust me, it works 100% of the time. So, going into this, name one team that you want to win versus one that you think will win.
So okay, I want Uruguay to win. It's a South American team, and they have like great players: Luis Suarez, Cavani, David Nunes, and it's good for a new underdog team to win. But I think either France or Argentina will win. I believe Argentina haven't lost a match in 2 years, an international match. So they're looking really strong right now.
Yeah, I think I like to think Brazil is gonna get it done. I think they've had some amazing performers in the league stages, Premier League, La Liga, and they really look like a team filled with fiery young guys. And secondly, the one that I want to win is Portugal. I think Ronaldo. It's about damn time. And with that, let's conclude this podcast. Enough has been said, enough has been shared. We're back with a bang. It's another classic. And we'll see you guys next week, hopefully, maybe the week after that. But we will return. See you guys later. Goodbye. Good night.